ChristianFeelan.com.
Sierra and Russell Wilson are stepping up in the fight against COVID-19. The Seattle Seahawks quarterback and his Grammy Award-winning wife are donating millions of meals to those in need with help of the nonprofit Feeding America. They appeared on ABC's Good Morning America to talk about their motivation.
You know, when you think about it, at the core of it all, two of the greatest necessities and essentials are food and shelter. So it was really great for us to be able to, we really wanted to focus on those needs and the immediate needs. You know, if you don't have food, how can you really go on with your days or start your days?
New coronavirus hotspots are hitting the map. And USA Radio Network's Wendy King has the details.
There are new concerns about a COVID-19 surge in Philadelphia from the White House response team. Vice President Mike Pence addressed that.
I spoke today to Governor Tom Wolf, and as we begin to see early trend lines in Philadelphia, I assured him that we were going to continue to flow resources and support to that community.
Washington, D.C. and Baltimore were also singled out as potential hotspots. President Trump said he's optimistic that the nation will reopen for business, but he said there's a lot to consider.
I think we will be sooner rather than later, but we'll be sitting down with the professionals. We'll be sitting down with many different people making a determination, and those meetings will start taking place fairly soon.
For USA Radio News, I'm Wendy King.
For USA Radio News, I'm Tim Berg.
You're listening to HunterdonChamberRadio.com, sponsored by the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce. Our studios are located at the historic Large House, 119 Main Street, Flemington, New Jersey. The content and views of our hosts do not necessarily reflect the views of the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce. To contact our station, call 908-782-7115 or email onair@hunterdon-chamber.org. Thank you to our sponsors and underwriters. Please remember to support them and buy Hunterdon, buy local. Visit www.HunterdonChamberRadio.com for a complete listing of our programs.
When it matters most, our award-winning team of emergency physicians and nurses provides sophisticated care 24 hours a day. Superior emergency care at a moment's notice. Hunterdon Healthcare, your full circle of care.
Well, I'd like to welcome everyone back to another special edition here on Hunterdon Chamber Radio. This is Chris Phelan with the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce coming to you live from our studios, which are very, very quiet, along with our office, like all of us. And in just a moment, I'm going to introduce Larry Cartwright, who is with NAMI of Hunterdon, the National Alliance of Mental Illness. But I always have tried to start out these special editions, being brought to you by not only the Hunterdon County Chamber, but by the Hunterdon County Office of Economic Development. I've really tried to put a shout out and kudos to all of our frontline folks that are out there, especially those up at the Hunterdon healthcare system, those doctors, nurses, technicians, the staff, all of our first responders, emergency services, our EMTs, our local rescue squads, our local fire companies, law enforcement on a county level, law enforcement on a local level, the Board of Health, Hunterdon County OEM, and especially all those, essential workers that are working that front line to keep things moving as best as they can in all of our local supermarkets and all the curbside eateries and the convenience stores, the pharmacies. I mean, these folks, too, are putting themselves at risk. And, kudos to you to do the best you can in midst of these circumstances and all that you are doing to help Hunterdon County and all of our 26 communities here continue to function as best as we can as we all feel the impact from this pandemic. But I want to welcome on the phone here Larry Cartwright of NAMI of Hunterdon, the National Alliance of Mental Illness. Larry, how are you this afternoon?
I'm well, thank you. I'd like to echo the same shout-outs that you just did to all the people that are out there putting their self on the line to help others. I think it's awesome.
It is, Larry, and this is a stressful time. I want to also mention, Larry, you are one of our few award-winning hosts here. You host a regular weekly show, and then you host a second regular weekly show, one that airs Monday afternoons, and that's put on by yourself and Tracy, the National Alliance of Mental Illness of Hunterdon sponsors that show. And then after that, couple times a month, we have a show by Hunterdon Medical Center as well that you're the gracious host on that. And you've been on board from day one. So kudos to you and thank you for, all of your participation and support of Chamber Radio and all that great information you've been giving out for years.
Well, I appreciate it. It's ironic because years ago I worked with someone, or someone worked for me actually, who was one of the original hosts, and he still is down at WDBR. And he always would say to me, Larry, he says, you got a great radio voice. And my wife always says, you got a great radio face. So,
well, today you have a face, because on our Facebook stream, and by tomorrow we'll be up on the YouTube channel. Your picture is right beside myself, and folks get to see you there in the studio, what you look like. And we took that picture not even a month or so ago.
No, you haven't.
Feels like it was a year ago. It's unbelievable how this time is impacting us all. But maybe we could start out, Larry, just share a little bit about yourself, and let's share with folks, about the National Alliance of Mental Illness here in Hunterdon County, and the hard and tough and challenging yet very critical work that NAMI does every day and has been doing for so many years.
Yeah, well, my wife and I got involved in this. We have 4 kids. My youngest son is diagnosed paranoid schizophrenia, and he attempted suicide twice and wound up in Trenton Psych for almost 20 months, and then Governor Whitman was in charge at that point. She said, if you have a mental health hospital in your county, then you get transferred there. So they transferred my son to Hunterdon when it was still open. He spent about another 11 months there, was in and out after that more times than we care to count. But jumping forward, right now he's doing very well. He's almost, May will be his 6th year working at BJ's.
That's great.
He has his own apartment for over 8 years, and he takes his meds religiously. And by the medical center, he's considered a success story. So that's good. But that's how we got involved with NAMI. We had never heard of it or never even knew what it was. And somebody at the hospital who we were going to for counseling, they suggested that we look into it. And we did, and one thing led to another, and, wound up taking classes and wound up being certified to teach family-to-family classes, which is for caregivers who want to take a class and learn more about what is going on with their loved one. And NAMI does that. We have, obviously now at this period of time, we have to halt it, but, and we also, like I said, teach classes. We run support groups, which we again had to halt. But I will mention this. If anybody out there listening needs or wants to talk to someone in a support group, a caregiver is what it is, not the person with the illness. NAMI, New Jersey, if you go to NAMI, NAMINJ.org, and look up presentations, they have an online support group for anybody that wants to join in. So it's just something. We in Hunterdon County, we're all volunteers, work out of our houses, that sort of thing. We don't have a paid staff. But there is a chapter of NAMI in every county in the state of New Jersey, every state in the union, and overseas. Like I said, in Hunterdon County, we normally would have a support group that would meet monthly, and we have classes to help people understand more what their loved one is going through. But right now, all that is halted because of the virus going around. So a lot of us are confined to our houses, and that could be a trigger for some people.
Sure.
And it's unfortunate, but someone recently, as I think a week or so ago, reached out and asked something because they were their loved one was going off the deep end, and so we suggested what they do, and people came out to talk to him, and they felt that he should be committed to the hospital, and he was, and thankfully so, because he wouldn't have gone on his own. So it was good that he listened to the counselors who came out. And I'd just like to mention that if you are in a situation like that, where you have someone in your family who is either living with you or living on their own, but they're going, I hate to say it, but off the deep end, say. If you call crisis intervention, it's 908-788-6401. A team will come out, and they are all qualified counselors, and they will talk to the individual, and they will make a decision whether it's all right to stay home or whether it's better that they go be hospitalized. There was a time after I retired years ago that I worked at that agency on Saturdays, and I used to go out with the team, and they would talk to the individual, and I would talk to the family to let them know what services were available to them. So I am very familiar with it, and it's a very wonderful organization, and they're all well-trained and all very, kind to the person.
Compassionate, sure.
And it's something that, if you need that type of intervention, it's something to call.
Larry, I wanted just to take a step back because when you look at the history, at least in our society here in America, and, it's unfortunate, 10, 20 years ago, mental illness was looked at very differently, and it was definitely segmented off, and society didn't really understand it, maybe, and there was a lot of ignorance around that. Maybe shed some light, because my observation over the last, 10, 15 years is there is far more acceptance, even within the workforce today. This was something that, employers, didn't know how to deal with or didn't deal with or wouldn't hire somebody.
Right.
Maybe just talk a little bit about the history, because I think it's incredible now that we are addressing this, and we see so many, individuals in our families, in our county, in our communities, at our work, that are being impacted by mental illness from all ends of the spectrum. We have such a high suicide rate and all these other things.
Right, and I think that, that's one of the things that NAMI has been trying to do over the years, is to, I used to say, if they diagnosed my son with cancer, everybody would say, "Oh, Larry, can we bring you some supper? Can we ride you to the hospital to the, yada, yada."
Right.
He was paranoid schizophrenic. Everybody take two steps back and, wouldn't want to be involved. And so since then, we have done a lot to break the stigma attached to mental illness. Unfortunately, it's still there in many cases, but we have come a long way. I feel that the more celebrities who come out and admit that they have a problem helps. Bruce Springsteen came out recently, said he suffers from severe depression.
Right.
And he came out and wrote the song Depression.
Right.
And Demi Lovato, she come out and said that, she suffers from major mental illnesses. And she speaks to the national organization of NAMI when they hold their annual gathering. And she's almost on the board. She's not officially on the board, but she is almost on the board, because she is so outspoken about it. And the more people that do that, I think the more, help it is, because people look at it and they say, wow, and it's not like if you admit you have it that, oh, okay, you're going to be Bruce Springsteen or, a musician or an actor or whatever, but you can live your life, and that's the whole thing. My son is living his life, and like you said about jobs, hiring, that's come a long way from where it used to be, because at BJ's, they know my son has a mental illness, and they hired him anyway.
Sure, which is wonderful.
And it is, and he loves it. He's working now, actually.
Wow.
But they have him, what they used to do, what he did before when they hired him, up until this epidemic, was he had hand samples. If you ever been at BJ's, they'll say, "Oh, would you like a piece of cheese, or try this,
Sure, the products.
And that's what he does. But now with the situation the way it is, they don't hand out samples, obviously. But what they did is they took those people who did that and they have them cleaning the shopping carts. They have them cleaning the refrigerators. They have them cleaning the doorknobs, all the shelves and stocking and restocking and cleaning the shelves and so on and so forth. So that's what he's doing now, which is great because he keeps his job,
Right.
And so I think it's great that stores like that, well, ShopRite does it too. They hire people with mental health issues, and Stop and Shop does. So, I mean, it's come a long way, like you said, and we still got a long way to go, but we have come a great distance, and I think that's great.
And I do think, as you mentioned, public figures and celebrities that, again, kind of talk about this and bring it into mainstream conversation. That's a real, positive at the end of the day. And I guess, let's talk a little bit, because there are all different types of mental illness as well. You mentioned, Bruce Springsteen and depression. I mean, I would think, and especially in light of what's happening now, you've had everybody's world basically come to a stop. And if your world doesn't come to a stop and you're at home, you're also out there, like your son, working in these essential services, and the stress levels on both ends, whether you're in the medical field or out there on the non-essential stores that are working, or now you're working from home and trying to balance your kids. There's a lot of different emotions at play. Right. And I'm just curious, maybe you could share a little bit about, some of the things that maybe people can do and think about, in these, real tough times.
Well, one of the things I always tell people, being a caregiver can be extremely, extremely stressful. And they should take at least 15 minutes to a half hour, more if they can, each day for what they enjoy to do. If they like walking, walk around a block. Take the dog and walk around a block.
Sure.
That's what my wife does, but around our block it's 2 miles where we live. But if they like reading, read. But take some time for yourself. If you like sitting on a porch and just looking at the stars, meditate. Do it. Take some time for yourself, because you can't devote your whole day to, your job and caring for your loved one and, fixing dinner and doing the dishes and doing laundry and now that everybody's pretty much, most people are confined.
Right.
The anxiety can get to them. Depression can get to them. And the difference between, everybody gets depressed over something. Everybody. I don't care who you are. If you had a car accident and totaled your car, that can,
right.
You broke up with your girlfriend, that can be depression. The difference between depression being a mental illness and depression that 99 and 9/10% of the population have at one point or another is the time that it goes on.
Okay.
If a person is depressed for 3-4 days, that's one thing. If they're depressed for 4 or 5 weeks, that's an illness. And I'll just give you a personal thing. I was in a position in a job, and company was bought out, and we were downsized. I was downsized. I'm out in my woods splitting wood, firewood, and I'm depressed. Finally, it struck me, hey, Cartwright, you've got 4 kids, a mortgage, car payments, taxes to pay, putting food on the table, putting gas in a car. You better go get a job.
Right.
And that ended my depression. I went out and got a job and went back to work, and everything picked up again. And, but that's the difference between, 3 or 4 days and 4 or 5 weeks,
Sure.
And anxiety is the same thing. A lot of times, bipolar. There's bipolar 1, there's bipolar 2, where you have now they're advertising medication on television, so you'll see, bipolar, and they'll say, deep depression, manic highs, and and that's what it is. You know, you can be a person who has that, can be high for a week or two, and, you know, crash. Demi Lovato used to think that was normal to stay up 4 or 5 nights, all night long, writing songs. But, you know, and then she'd crash. So it's all this stuff that we're going through now can trigger, you know, a sort of depressive mood. So.
No, without a doubt. And, you know, I guess it's thinking about some of those, you know, signs. Do you want to share, like, maybe what are some of the signs that maybe a loved one, you know, is watching someone else, or, you know, maybe it's an employer is just seeing, you know, different types of behavior, you know, at the end of the day? What would be some of the signs that could, you know, be indicators that, you know, maybe we need to kind of address this and get some help, or, you know, the like?
Okay. One sign is not getting out of bed.
Okay.
Staying in bed all day. Staying in bed all day, not showering. Rarely, barely eating. It's, you know, I remember a woman called me, well, I want to say about a year ago, and she said her daughter wouldn't get out of bed. And I asked her, I said, well, what would you want her to do if she got out of bed? Well, I want her to come down and, you know, take a shower and then come back, have breakfast, or walk the dog. So I said, well, do me a favor. Don't do anything for the next day or two. And I'll call you back in a day or two. So when I call back, I says, how's your daughter doing? She says, she got up, she went to shake a shower. You know, sometimes it's just 1 or 2 days. It's
right.
Not a total, you know, illness. But even that, even though 1 or 2 days, you have to be aware of. You know, like the daughter didn't get out of bed. When she got out of bed, she showered, you know, went down to walk the dog, ate breakfast, you know, that sort of thing, and went back to work. So it's, you know, it's hard, but you have to see these signs, something that's not quote unquote normal for your loved one. If your loved one normally doesn't sit in their room and sulk all day, that's a sign.
Right.
And sometimes it's, you know, difficult if your person is at work, and up to that point they were doing, you know, really good at their job, and then all of a sudden they're crashing on their job and not doing it, or not turning in paperwork that they have to, or whatever. That's also a sign for an employer. And, you know, all they have to do is say, you got something on your mind, you like to talk about it, or is there anything I can do to help? You know, a lot of times you have to go approach it delicately rather than, you know, what's going on? What are you doing? You know, that sort of thing. You
don't want somebody to shut down and
right.
withdraw. Sure.
Right. So you don't want them to withdraw, so you just, you know, I'm here if you want to talk, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think one of the things that has come through on several of these special editions, you know, especially in this crisis that we're in and the extra levels of stress and challenges, is communication. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we've become an incredible society, so reliant on technology, and it's come into play wonderfully to help, you know, keep businesses open and families connected and all these Zoom meetings and all that. But technology has a little bit of a disconnect, too. And let's talk for a moment or two about, well, actually, I'm going to share real quick, Larry. One of our listeners just put up on the Facebook page great advice. This is from Ed listening here today. This is a great time to work on that hobby you've been putting off. Go out and do something for yourself, lessen the stress of the situation, and taking care of others. So that's a great, simple, practical, and sometimes
pretty much what I just said.
It is,
you know?
and yeah,
like,
we're in
do what you enjoy doing.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah, if you have to work from home, obviously you're going to have to work for part of the day. But another part of the day, you just take, if you're taking a lunch, if you got a lunch break at work, if you were in an office and you had a lunch break, take the lunch break and do it, whatever you want to do, that you enjoy doing.
Yeah, I wonder, too, let's just talk a little bit about the youth for a minute or two, because, obviously, prior to this, we had a lot of unfortunate over the last couple of years, not only here in Hunterdon County, but throughout the state, throughout the country, this rise of childhood suicide, youth suicide, and concerned. Obviously with the lack of now support mechanisms for when you think about our youth, and they're not in school, they're not in their routines, they're not able to be with their friends.
Right.
I'm sure this is something that NAMI addresses in our normal course, but is something that you guys are looking at in terms of extra support or services during this time.
Yeah, unfortunately, there is a support group for peers.
Okay.
And it's every Tuesday night, weekly. But now it's because of the not being able to have more than X amount of people in a room. So they have to suspend it till this crisis is over. But excuse me. But there again, they can call. Call their friends. Talk to each other. And if it's a parent seeing that their teenager, don't force them to do schoolwork every minute of the day that they're up, okay? Let them relax a little bit. Let them reach out to their friends, whether it's through Zoom or, internet or whatever, or telephone, the old phone, call them and find out. But, this time, this stress is for all of us. It's for youth, it's for young adults, it's for middle age, it's for old age. We're all under a bit of stress, and if you enjoy doing something, if your child, if your young adult likes to paint or likes to draw or likes to do this or that, let them do that, So it's not just, I'm stuck here, I have to do this, you know what I'm saying?
No, definitely.
It's, let them do things that they enjoy doing along with some of the things that you want them to do, but don't be the domineering parent.
Yeah, I think every child, no matter, depending on the age as well and what kind of, home environment it is dealing with this very differently, and you don't know. And I would think shed a little light on this, because I would think at some point too, we as humans and sometimes as Americans have this stoic belief we've got to keep everything in. And
Right.
I would think there's a tipping point, for youth or adults too, and that's not a healthy place to be as well.
No, it's not. And that's why, a lot of times youth have trouble talking to their parents. I'll briefly touch on something. There was a young man who was straight A student and president of his class and, soccer team and all this happy stuff. And his parents had these 3 to 4 very uppity-up schools like Harvard, Yale,
Okay.
that they wanted him to go to. Graduated high school and took his life. About 2 weeks later, they found a note. He split his mattress and stuck his note in his mattress that he had no desire at all to go to college at that point in time, but parents wouldn't listen, and they had his life planned for him, and it wasn't going to be that way. So I'm just saying, don't be the dominant parent in times like this, because find out what your child wants. Your child may not want to go to college. And, people can make a great living and not have a college education.
Sure, definitely.
I survived 4 kids, a mortgage, car payments, and the whole thing. I didn't have a college education.
No, it's true.
But I had a real good job.
It's true, and that's definitely. I'll come on your show when we're back regularly. We could talk about that, because I think you are seeing over the last couple of years a whole different shift in where parents are thinking on that, and workforce training and vocational trades and all of the trades. And we know out here in Hunterdon, New Jersey, we need our trades to survive. And I know our businesses, our contractors, our automotive industries, our HVAC industries are having a real hard time generationally. So we'll come back on that workforce topic in the future. But here's a great time to spend, especially if your child is in high school or even in college and they're trying to figure it out. Like, use this extra time to spend some time talking about the things that are probably so hard during the normal days and normal years before this, where everybody's running and running and running. Here's great family time, and trying to find that balance to have these conversations are probably pretty good.
And like I said before, don't push it, go at it. Gee, what do you think, when you get out of school or when you get out of, and you get out on your own? What is your, you have anything planned that you'd like to do, or, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think one realization, that I have observed out of this is it always is the case, and, I'm not putting this in a faith context, but, at the end of the day, pandemics like this and national tragedies that come forward really bring to light, I think, to people the fragility of life. Yes. And, at the end of the day, this balance between, being mentally sound or mentally ill or having ailments and all of that, it's really about, trying to maybe take it down a little bit and let's think about some other things than, necessarily all the other pressures that, our youth or us as adults even put on ourselves. And I'm hearing that from employers too, because, it's also, we had a webinar this morning, Larry, at the Chamber, and we had a great program, and it was about sales and about marketing and businesses. Part of this economic recovery is going to be, part of this overall recovery. I mean, I realize we're still, and not to make light of any of it, we're still in the midst of this response mode to this pandemic, but at some point we're going to have to look at the long-term recovery, and part of that is our mental health and our physical health. Part of that will be our economy, because, the economy is in a very, very challenging place right now. And that's adding so much extra stress to so many people, uncertain of the future.
Right, exactly.
And,
it's, like the stock market took a dive for a couple of weeks there. So people lost a lot of their investment. All right, it's coming back a little bit now, but still, that's a little extra stress,
It is, and as we've heard from people far wiser than I when it comes to financial market investments, when it comes to the economy, you can't look at the economy every 10 minutes, every day.
No.
You can't look at this pandemic that way either. I mean, people are obsessed with, the numbers and the number of we've got to kind of take a step back. And
exactly.
This will hopefully run its course quicker than anyone can predict. We got to be in control of what we can, which is our own self. This was the conversation on the webinar. We have to control our own emotions and our own ways that we're reacting to this.
Right.
And keep ourselves in a good place so that we can help our family and help our friends and help our coworkers. And there's a real balancing act to that. And I want to just again share with anyone who's just maybe joining us. This is Chris Phelan here with the Hunterdon County Chamber. We're doing various special editions over the past weeks, and we'll continue to do that. You can find that information up on our website at hunterdonChamber.org. There's a special button for this COVID-19 series, and you can see our back episodes, and they're on the YouTube channel. They're on our Facebook channel. We've got podcasts there. We're joined today by Larry Cartwright, who is with the NAMI of Hunterdon, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and we're talking just in general about things that you can do, specific support resources that are out there, for you to tap into, whether you're an employer, whether it's your loved one, maybe it's a neighbor. At the end of the day, it's pretty stressful. And, we know that we're going to have, unfortunate needs that are going to come out of this that are already being addressed. And I think a greater set of needs, because there is going to be a little bit of, again, even when we see the green light, this is going to be a long road to get things back to a new normal.
Right.
You still heard people talking about the new normal after the recession, and that was over 10 years ago at this point.
Right.
And
exactly.
this new normal is going to be, really tough. I think one of the real tough things I'm also hearing, and it's truly tragic, when you look at individuals who are in a healthcare facility or in a nursing facility or a long-term care facility, the isolation. Maybe talk a little bit about isolation and mental illness as well, because we've also got so many seniors and individuals that live in our county and community that are isolated.
Yeah, and unfortunately, with this epidemic that's going around, it's even worse.
Right.
Because their relatives can't go see them,
Exactly.
And so that's, there was one on television last night about a daughter whose father passed away. He was 85, I think, or something like that. And they wouldn't let anybody into the nursing home because there had been a couple people who had already died and a couple others who had tested positive for it. And, not being able to be by your loved one's side is devastating, for lack of a better word.
It is.
And, it's so hard. And, I just like to mention that if anybody, adult or caregiver or whatever, needs someone to talk to, there is a program called Intensive Family Support Services here in Hunterdon County.
Okay.
And you could reach out to them. There's two ladies that pretty much run it. One is Angela Shufo, and the other is Cherie, and I can't pronounce her last name. It's Oostdyk. I don't know how you say that, but her name is Cherie, and the other one is Angela. And if you call them at 908-788-6401, Angela's extension is 7071. Cherie's is 3344. The great thing about intensive family support is it's totally free. You can go a lot of now. Before the epidemic here, they would meet people either in their office or they would meet them in McDonald's or something and talk to them. Now it's probably going to be done over the phone or through the computer or whatever. But you can go half a dozen times, not go for 6 months, and go back again. It's like I said, and it's totally free. And they are certified counselors, both have masters above, and they're all I get back from people I recommend that today go see them or reach out to them. I get nothing back but great response, that they've been such a great help. So if you've got, an issue that you're dealing with and you need someone to talk to about it, those are two people, Angela and Cherie, 788-6401. And you might want to, like I said, it's totally free, which is the great thing. There also, you can reach out to NAMI, Hunterdon. Our number is 908-284-0500. And we don't have someone man it 24 hours a day, but we do have someone who checks it at least twice a day, and we will get back to you very quickly.
Okay.
Or you can email us at namihunterdon.org, and we promise you we'll be right back to you. Okay?
Larry, do you guys also have a website with information?
Yeah, it's NAMI Hunterdon website. We have a Facebook page and online website, and so.
I think that's great. These are all great resources that we can share with the community, and it is
right,
an
exactly.
issue that we've got to spread the word on this and continue to, like you said, break down the stigma. At the end of the day, that
absolutely.
If we need help and we need to help each other. And I get back to, we do live in still a rural county, and we've got great communities and great neighborhoods. But if there was ever a time to reach out to that senior a few tours down, or that person that maybe lives alone or doesn't have family close, now's the time to, do what you can to get in touch and check in on your neighbors. Check in on somebody. Maybe it's a loved one or a family member who is distant as well, and maybe you can connect with somebody in that community to connect with them.
Right, exactly. Or even just friends who you know.
Sure.
Because everybody in this situation is pretty much homebound unless they are a, first responder or, like we all mentioned, the doctors, nurses, technicians, etc. are stuck home.
Yeah, and I think there's some other great ways to alleviate stress, and I highly suggest folks take a look at the Hunterdon Healthcare, either their Facebook page or up on their website. They are looking for the community to keep the morale up and support. So there's ways to kind of distance your volunteerism. And they're looking for cards and posters and things like that you can drop in the mail. You don't have to leave your house, at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And things that you can do to brighten up somebody's life. I love all the social media that's out there that's trying to put out positive messaging and showing positive examples of folks that, are doing great things and trying to make a difference in people's lives. And I just hope that maybe this tsunami of positivity, will kind of be the new norm coming out of this, because
we hope so.
All the nonsense that we've accumulated in our society, the partisanship and the bickering and the nonsense and the divides, it's just got to come to an end.
You're right, and it. Hopefully that this will have something to put us on the right path for that.
No, I definitely hope so. Let's talk for a minute or two, because this is an important issue, and this is definitely something that we hear a lot. Especially we heard a lot, and we can't forget as well. We still have active military that is around the globe, and we have folks in the theater in Afghanistan and in harm's way, and family that are dealing with that. But we hear this term a lot, in that regard, post-traumatic stress. And we hear that around the crisis too. So maybe we talk a little bit about post-traumatic stress and what that is, Larry. And again, it's another unfortunate illness that happens and is real. But I think it could happen to anyone. It's not just something that happens to soldiers.
I know someone whose husband was driving a car and she was in the passenger seat, and they were going along, and somebody in a pickup truck ran a red light, smashed into the side of the car, and her husband died in her arms.
Wow.
She, under no circumstances, will get in any kind of car or bus.
Right.
And it's very difficult for her to get anywhere because she won't go in a car. Absolutely won't go in a car. That's post-traumatic stress syndrome. And it's because of the accident or her husband dying, in a car accident in her arms. Veterans get it a lot of times by what they see. And a lot of times, in some cases, not all cases, somebody gets discharged from the military. In the military, they were told when to get up, when to get dressed, when to go eat, when to exercise, when to do this, when to do that, when to go to bed, and then they get discharged. And now they don't have a staff sergeant or a master sergeant telling them what to do. And they don't know what to do.
Right.
That also is post-traumatic stress syndrome or stress disorder. And it can range from anywhere from seeing your buddy get killed by a bomb or getting discharged from and never leaving the States in the military. And it can happen to, anybody. It's not something that is scheduled only for veterans.
Sure.
A great percentage of veterans have it, yes. I'm not denying that. But it can be anybody. I used to go to this organization years back, and half the people in it had post-traumatic stress disorder, and they were all civilians.
Right. Wow.
Lost their house in a fire, lost someone, was killed in a robbery. They were there in a store when the store was robbed, and they were shot and killed. And the remaining relative, had post-traumatic stress. And it's something that, like I said, is not confined just to military.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be a earth-shattering event. I know someone who had post-traumatic stress severely over a dent in his new car.
Wow.
And that's fact.
Wow. So it could run the whole gamut.
Yeah, it can.
Wow.
And, you know, there is, again, it's hard to deal with being the individual, but there is help out there. You know, if you have it or you know someone that has it, reach out. There is help out there.
Yeah, I think that's the first step is to reach out, or if you know, again, a loved one or someone, an acquaintance or a coworker, to get them the information, or to see if somebody can, help them reach out as well.
Right.
Because sometimes they, that individual maybe isn't even aware of it. I would think that's a common situation.
That's common too.
Yeah.
That they're not aware of it.
Right.
They think it's normal.
Right.
And, the rest of the people around them see it's not normal. And that's why they should, help them reach out and get help.
Well, let's, Larry. I know we got a few more minutes, here, definitely on the air here. But if you're just joining us, Larry Cartwright's on the line. Larry is with the NAMI of Hunterdon, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. This is Chris Phelan. We're bringing you a special edition of Chamber Radio here with the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce, and also, being co-promoted and sponsored by the Hunterdon County Office of Economic Development. Want to encourage you as well, and I know employers are feeling a lot of stress right now. Obviously, on the financial side, employees are one of the things, and on the resource side, we really tried to make available, and we continue to update this on several times a day, daily basis, and throughout the day, is on our website a COVID-19 business resource page. And that page is full of information on a federal, state, county, and local level. It's got a great news feed. And I'm going to take a look at it, Larry. You could take a look at it. And I think we need to put some of these resources up there as well, for individuals. We had a call earlier today with, we've been co-hosting a call several times a week with our mayors of Hunterdon County, along with the Office of Economic Development. Today, we had 5 of our large nonprofit organizations on there just giving a little update. We had United Way, we had Hunterdon Helpline, we had the folks from the YMCA and Prevention NJ, which does a lot of work around prevention.
Right.
And they, too, are very concerned, about the uptick in the need of social services. And, I think part of it is the awareness, and then part of it is really acting and doing something. And I think for employers, there's always a hesitancy there, because of the separation of employee privacy, employee rights, HIPAA,
right,
all of that. But, I think employers have to, really, especially, I would think, go out of their way now to make their folks aware of resources around this. And NAMI is just one of those great resources.
Yeah, and it's like we were just talking about PTSD. There's about 3 different horse farms in the county that people can go to who have PTSD, and they can ride the horse. If they don't want to ride it, they can walk around, talk to the horse. And a lot of times they can talk to the horse and they won't talk to an individual, a human being. But they can relieve some of their pressure to talking to the horse. Because I know one of the women who owns one of these, and it's just amazing. It really is.
Yeah, that's a really great thing. I'm familiar with at least 2 of them, and I got to tour up the one in, I'm trying to blank myself, but it's up in Pittstown, just outside of, downtown Pittstown, if you want to say it's downtown, and it's Riding with Heart. And they do a great job, and they work with a whole range of clientele. But
right, exactly. And the one I'm thinking about is Strains of Love, I think it is.
Yeah. That's the other one that I haven't been there to their site, but that's definitely one that I've heard of here in the county.
Well, I had Cece, who she goes by Cece, on the radio on the radio show, and that's how I know about it. Then she took me up there and gave me a tour around and such. So
Gotcha. Now, these are great resources. Let's give our listeners again, Larry, some of those contact information and numbers for NAMI of Hunterdon. And I know you mentioned the caregiver support line, which is real important for caregivers now because of the extra stress and the demands.
Right. Okay. NAMI's number is 908-284-0500. We have someone that checks it at least twice a day, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. You can reach out to us at NAMIHunterdon.org, and we will get back to you. If you're a caregiver and you are in a crisis mode or need to talk to somebody, if you call Intensive Family Support Services, it's 908-788-6401. Angela's extension is 7071. Sherry's extension is 3344. If you need to call crisis intervention to your loved one is having a real bad situation and you need somebody to come out and talk to them, it's 908-788-6401. And like I said, there's a support group online, NAMINJ.org, and I'm not sure what day it's on, but you can go to their website, which is NAMINJ.org, and it'll say presentations, and you just click on it, and it'll tell you when.
Or maybe we could talk for just a few minutes about the caregiver, because the caregiver is often the one who probably spends the least amount of time taking care of themselves, and given these stressful times, I think it's really important for the caregiver to take care of themselves, or they're not going to be able to take care of their loved one.
Right, exactly, and that's what I was saying earlier, that you have to take care. And I learned, my wife and I learned that through personal experience. Okay. You have to do something that you enjoy every day for at least amount of time, 15 minutes. If you can do it for a half hour to an hour, that's great. But at least 15 minutes of your own time, away from everybody, and just, sit down or whatever on the deck, on the porch, take a walk the dog around the block, whatever it is, but you can just relax, and you don't have the stress of what's going on around in the household. And you have to take care of yourself. You can't take care of your loved one who has a mental health issue and is dependent on you if you can't take care of yourself. And that's, believe me, over the last 20-some-odd years that we've been doing this, or I've been doing this, I've seen it more than once, put it that way, numerous times where the caregiver crashes because they didn't take care of themselves. And you have to take care of yourself. You can't help someone who needs help if you're not in a right situation yourself. So,
no, I think that's again sound advice to reinforce. I know we've shared this a couple times, but it's so important, at the end of the day. And I think it's also, I would think, very important for individuals that, are under the treatment of a doctor or a counselor to continue up that treatment and counselors. I know most doctors are seeing patients on telemedicine, like right on your phone, and calling it in. So there's not necessarily a fear. Well, there is a fear of going out, which I understand, and wanting maybe not to go to a doctor's office. But wouldn't you think now is the most important time to continue your treatment and reaching out to your medical professionals?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now more than ever. Because, the way the situation is now, you have to have your doctor's support. You have to have, continue to take your medication. And, to get through this mess that we're in, you have to do that. And something just occurred to me about, we were talking earlier about youth and teenagers and high school and such. There is a stigma-free task force, and that's in the county also, but there is also a stigma-free in the high school run by students.
Okay.
It's in Hunterdon Central. It started there, and and the young lady who started it is bipolar, and I believe she graduated, but it's still going on with, juniors and sophomores and seniors now in the high school. So if you're in high school, say in Hunterdon Central anyway, you can reach out to them. They're in the school. So.
Well, you see that slogan on the news. You see it on social media. I've seen it, around. We're in this together. We're stronger together, no matter what the phrase is. I would think, on this issue, we are in it together. And
absolutely,
we've got to really look out for each other. Larry, what are some closing thoughts you might have for our listeners? I really want to thank you for, taking the time to be here this afternoon on this special edition. We are going to have this available, as I mentioned, up on the Chamber site, hunterdon.chamber.org. There's a special button for all these COVID-19 special series. So that'll be up, tomorrow with our YouTube feed and the podcast feed, and you can check out some of our others. You can also go back and visit the site. There's podcasts of Larry's shows, so there's great resources for your shows that you do normally on Hunterdon Chamber Radio. But I want to give you a minute or two to, again, share with our listeners any closing thoughts, and really thank you for participating. I also have to thank you because when I think Larry Cartwright, folks don't get to see that today. Larry, 9 times out of 10, has his Navy hat on, so thank you for your service as a veteran as well.
It's my Air Force hat.
Your Air
Navy.
Force hat. Oh, man, I mixed up. The Navy's cheering.
My father was in the Navy.
See that? The Navy's cheering now, and the Air Force it doesn't want to talk to me. So.
No, but I would strongly suggest that if you're a caregiver and you feel you need help, please reach out to Intensive Family Support. They are wonderful. And all it is, like Chris said, we're in it together. They're in it together with you. They can help you. If you are a person with a mental health issue, continue to reach out to your doctor. Continue to get your medication and take it. And reach out for help. If you need it, we're there. NAMI is there. We can help you. If you need it, we can direct you where to go and who to see or whatever. And also remember, caregivers, take some time for yourself to do the things you like to do, whether it's read a book or look at the stars, meditate, whatever, yoga, whatever is fine. And, like I said, we are available if you, and I gave you the numbers before and everything, so reach out. We will answer you. We will try to help you. That is our goal in life.
Well, I appreciate the good work that you do and the countless volunteers that are part of NAMI of Hunterdon, our county, and our folks that are here, whether we're aware of you or not, whether we utilize your service or not, we're still better for that. And the community is very appreciative, Larry, for all the hard work. And please send my best to you and your family and the entire team there at NAMI.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. So,
Stay healthy.
Yes, you stay healthy and safe as well. Just want to again thank everyone for joining us for another special edition here on Hunterdon Chamber Radio. This has been Chris Phelan with the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce. This special series sponsored by not only the Chamber but the Hunterdon County Office of Economic Development. Want to again thank all of our frontline workers out on the workforce that are helping keep our essential businesses open, for them putting themselves at risk, in addition to all of our municipal workers, our county workers, all of those in EMS, law enforcement, our first responding community, all those at Hunterdon Healthcare, everyone that is doing something to help, again, us get through these challenging times. And again, visit our website, hunterdon.chamber.org. You'll see the business resource page. You'll also see some great links to other podcasts, a lot of information on our local businesses as well. Remember to shop Buy Hunterdon, buy local. So shopping local, even if it's electronic now, is so important to keep our economy going. And again, want to thank you and wish you all the best. Be well and be safe. You're listening to WHCR-DB, HunterdonChamberRadio.com. Brought to you by the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business.